Hello everyone and a warm welcome to the Directions Live online webinar series by Esri Malaysia. My name is Amir Faisal and I'm your host for today's session. Introducing today's presenter is Amira Aida Amiruddin, a solution analyst from professional services team here in Esri Malaysia. Amira works closely with users to identify, understand and recommend solutions for technical issues, providing product expertise and best practice assistance. With a working knowledge of ArcGIS, including ArcGIS Desktop, Server, and related products and technologies, Amira has delivered training on the ArcGIS Operations Dashboard, Introduction to GIS using ArcGIS, and migration from ArcMap to ArcGIS Pro. Amira holds a Bachelor of Science in Earth and Space Science from the University of Washington. So in this webinar, we shall learn and discover how to push spatial data to web applications, data stores, or automatically alert personnel when specific conditions occur, all in real time with ArcGIS GeoEvent Server. Without any further ado, I shall pass the presentation to Amira. Over to you, Amira.
Thank you, Amir. Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to my session today. I will be going over the introduction to GeoEvent Server. So GeoEvent Server brings real-time data analytics to ArcGIS Enterprise platform. Alright, so for today's agenda, we will go over the brief introduction to ArcGIS GeoEvent Server. Then we will go over the capabilities of what GeoEvent brings to ArcGIS Enterprise. Moving on, we will cover the core concept of GeoEvent and the benefits that it brings in our daily routine. Then, I'll give a very brief introduction on the installation of ArcGIS GeoEvent Server, the configuration parts on the input connectors, output connectors, and GeoEvent service. And towards the end of my session, we will go over a very short demo on visualizing real-time data demo using real-time analytics. ArcGIS GeoEvent Server expands the capabilities of ArcGIS Enterprise, enabling organization to connect with virtually any types of streaming data and automatically alert personnel when specified condition occurs, all in real time. ArcGIS GeoEvent Server can receive and interpret events from any data stream. So when we talk about real-time data, we generally break it into three categories, which are the first one, stationary sensors. So these are that are fixed assets that change over time, such as water gauge, weather station. It has location and measurement at a certain time we are running on a map. The second one, we have things that are moved, which are ambulance, airplanes, trains, ships, and people. And then the third one would be things that just happen. It could be accident, lightning, crime. These are the things that have space and time, but you cannot predict when these things are happening. So what is GeoEvent Server? So what do you know about GeoEvent? ArcGIS GeoEvent Server is a server extension for ArcGIS Enterprise. So it helps you to show real-time data as an output from every external inputs. So incoming data could be from different kind of formats. It could be text from TCP socket, JSON, GeoJSON, and many more. So GeoEvent Server then will help you to analyze and process the data from input, and output will be sent out in real time through emails, alerts, and feature updates, etc. So since event data can be filtered, processed, and sent out to multiple destinations when specified conditions occur all in real time, it is helping you to respond faster with increased awareness whether and whenever changes occur. So with real-time capabilities, there are a lot that ArcGIS Enterprise and GeoEvent could be offering. GeoEvent Server is a functional role that brings a real-time GIS to ArcGIS Enterprise and is being divided into 5 key capabilities. The first one would be data ingestion, and we have streaming analytics of data. And then the third one would be spatial temporal big data store as storage. We also have visualization of real-time data, and then the last one will be disseminate and actuations. All right, let's get with data ingestion. So data ingestion comes in investing high volumes and high velocity from sensors, connected devices, and Internet of Things landscape. So high volume means that there are a lot of data, while high velocity means the data is arriving very quickly. So those two ingestion ingestions can be handled by GeoEvent. We have a variety of data providers as the input for any types of data. So it could be vehicles, airplanes, ambulance, GPS receivers that are moving around. It can be feed sensors, network recording via radio or cellular connection, and then data can also be detected by the changes of temperatures and weather, humidity, public safety, and other, which helps to be ingested into ArcGIS Enterprise. All right, the second one, we have streaming analytics data. So this second capability will be providing streaming analytics of the data while in transit to both refine and enrich the data to identify the pattern of interest through filtering once the data has been ingested by doing real-time analytics on the data. So filters are configurable elements of a GeoEvent service that filters, for example, remove the streaming event data. So GeoEvent, when it does not satisfy some of the specified criteria. So filters are generally attribute filters, spatial filters, and it can be both combination attribute and spatial filters. So when the data is being flowed into a system of high volumes or high velocities, it desirably focus on just the event that matters. So we can focus on specified data events and ignore the others. For example, we want to filter an event speed of more than 120 kilometers per hour and discarding the other speeds that are going into the system. Next, filtering in GeoEvents also allow us to test spatial condition of data, and it is being stored in memory called geofences. So a polygon geofences is being used to test the spatial relationship of the point event flowing through the system. So filter could be set up to allow data to pass only when event is inside the geofence. Polygons. Geofence do not necessarily have to be polygon. It could be points and lines as well. For example, you want to set a warning alert when ship passes a certain iceberg within 5 kilometers. We also have processes in addition to filters. We have processes which allow data event to be manipulated to transform to discover pattern relationship and condition when within the data. So processes can be added into GeoEvent servers by dragging and dropping the processes elements into the canvas in the service designer in GeoEvent Manager, which I will show in my demo afterwards. So we have quite a lot of processes that provide key analytical capabilities. Some of the processes are listed here, which are the field calculator that will calculate new values for the fields such as longitude and latitude. And we have field mapper, which allow us to manipulate the schema of data that's going through the system to rename field and change types and sort of things. It helps us to make sure that it utilize schema matches the output in GeoEvent Server. Apart from that, you can also have buffer creators, geotaggers, and incident detector. Incident detector could generate an incident when any of the vehicles exceed a certain rate of speed or when any enter an area of interest or geofence. So as new updates are received from the tracked vehicle, the ongoing incident in the GeoEvent server will be updated. The incident will be closed when the vehicle resumes to a safe rate of speed or leave the geofence area. They are all used for real-time analytics. Next, a big data store solution would support the volume of data that are being processed. Spatial temporal big data stores capabilities can be scaled to support the intention need of GeoEvent. So once you have analyzed the data, you will probably need a space to store it, right? So the primary output will send to Esri feature service and then store in hosted GDB as features and feature class. And then we have the second option, which is storing the data in spatial temporal big data store. So big data store is a component of ArcGIS Enterprise that stores hosted dataset, especially for the high volume, high velocity, or it could be accumulated data over time as well. The fourth key capability is the visualization of real-time data. So extended the visualization capabilities of ArcGIS Enterprise through the stream layers for live feed and both dynamic aggregation and discrete features to enhance map services from spatial temporal big data store. It maintains the exceptional performance by configuring the aggregation view, it could also set up to provide statistical measure for the event. So for example, the speed of an ambulance at certain values, and you want to visualize the vehicle color to red to symbolize danger and whatnot. So you may not always store data. Sometimes you want just the map, and then in this case, you can use stream surveys, which is unique to GeoEvent. So clients can subscribe to the GeoEvent stream surveys, and then GeoEvent pushes the data to the client. So data does not stop in the database but pushes directly to the client. They are not pulling the data or refresh the screen. It will automatically pop up in the map. The fifth key capability is the ability to disseminate notification, the actuation back to the devices in the field through emails and text messages and alerts from the system. GeoEvent offers a few configurable outputs that provide the capability to a certain format. So the method to disseminate process event records is entirely up to us. Actuations, on the other hand, triggers action at the right time and then send commands to Internet of Things devices to adjust device behavior and detect patterns. Kick off workflow requests and get your device to take action when needed. Alright, in the next slide, I will go over the benefits of using GeoEvent Server with the capabilities that I've mentioned earlier. So how does using GeoEvent Server can benefit us? GeoEvent is a solution for real-world problem through one, real-time data ingestion. So ingesting real-time data feed from external source through input connectors allow you to tap into new kinds of data that does not exist before and provide additional situational awareness and insight. So for example, we have that water department to ingest data from sensors to detect and monitor water leaks. We also have logistic department to ingest data to monitor the vehicle speeds in the field, fuel level and temperature of engine, and etc. The second one would be applying real-time analytics. So using GeoEvent, you can focus on what is important to you by maximizing the real-time analytics by using filters and processes that come with GeoEvent. So let's say an oil and gas company would like to get notification when pressure reaches a certain values, which we can set using one of the processes. It could also be public safety would want to track a certain keywords or hashtags on Twitter or Instagram around a sporting event. And then we have visualizing real-time data. So being able to visualize your asset in web map provides an operational advantage for organization to see what is happening and where things are happening. So using the same web map, you can leverage available apps such as Operation Dashboard for ArcGIS, where you can create robust real-time dashboard to monitor, track, and assess the critical factors for successful operation, even as the situation develops. So for example, you have an emergency management agency can track and monitor personnel and vehicle and position assets where they are most needed during an event. And then the last benefits that GeoEvent can bring is a real-time alerting and notification. So with alert, you can provide them information that are necessary to make better and more informed decisions. So information are being sent through output connectors, including updating features in web map, as well as sending emails, SMS, and messages whenever a pattern of interest is detected. Alright, I'll go over a very brief installation and configuration key components of GeoEvent service. So as GeoEvent is one of the roles of ArcGIS Enterprise, it is a very easy process to install. So once you obtain the authorization file for your machine, and then you ensure that the version of GeoEvent is same as your ArcGIS Enterprise, you can just run the setup.exe to start installing. Then you might need the license file to authorize your GeoEvent as well. Once you finish the installation, you will be able to start your service of the ArcGIS GeoEvent. So GeoEvent Server can be monitored using GeoEvent Manager. As you can see in the screen, this is how GeoEvent Managers look like. So when you log into GeoEvent Manager, you will see mostly a similar URL like in the screen. So with the key capabilities, GeoEvent Manager is used to bring them together and create real-time services. The monitor page that we can see provides the status of the output being at the bottom, and then we have inputs in the middle, and then the GeoEvent service at the top. The data rates for all inputs, outputs, and GeoEvent services can be monitored in real time, allowing you to quickly evaluate the status as well as identify potential issues in the configured elements. So I'll talk a little bit about GeoEvent service. So a GeoEvent service allows you to define the flow of streaming data as it is received by an input connectors and to be sent to the output connectors. In addition to inputs and outputs, you can easily add any numbers of filters and processors to the service to perform real-time analysis on the streaming data that it is received. So using the service designed in GeoEvent Manager, you can easily create the GeoEvent service by dragging and dropping the inputs and output filters and processors onto the canvas, and then connecting the elements together and publishing the service. So you can see that the green icon is the input connectors, and then we have blue ones, which are the outputs, and the yellow one, which is the processors. So an input connector, which is also known as input, is a component of GeoEvent service responsible for receiving and interpreting event data from a data feed. So ArcGIS GeoEvent Server receives event data from virtually any source by using input connector. So an input retrieves attribute value from each event and construct a GeoEvent, which can be routed through optional filters and processes to an output. GeoEvent servers include input connectors installed within the software, which are receive text from TCP socket, pull external website for JSON and GeoJSON. Apart from that, there are also additional available in the ArcGIS GeoEvent Server gallery for ingesting any different types of data feeds. This is also applied the same as the output connectors. So when input is being received, it needs to be sent out, right? ArcGIS GeoEvent Server can send event data it has received to a variety of destinations. And output connectors, which are also known as output, is the component of ArcGIS GeoEvent service responsible for preparing and sending the processed data to a consumer over a communication channel in an expected format. So every GeoEvent service must include at least one output, with the option to add multiple outputs, allowing you to send updates and alerts to many destinations when a pattern of interest is detected. Alright, before I wrap up my session, we will go over a very simple visualizing real-time data demo. We will also create a simple GeoEvent service beforehand to see if the capabilities mentioned can be achieved. In this demo, we will use GeoEvent Manager to create an input, output, configure a very basic GeoEvent service, and show the visualization of the feature service as the output. In GeoEvent Manager, we can see monitors, inputs, GeoEvent services, and outputs, subtabs in the service tabs. We will work on that today. Alright, we will first configure an input by navigating to service, input, and click add inputs. Listed here are all the input connectors that are ready to be used in GeoEvent Manager. You may find your desired input from the search field at the top of the page by just entering the keywords. For today, I'll be using receive text from TCP socket as my input. Click select, and then we will begin to configure the new input. First, we will set the name for our input. And then we will set all the desired detail properties. In this case, I'm configuring the incoming data contains GeoEvent as yes and accept all the default properties for the TCP text input as illustrated, and then I'll click save. In the GeoEvent Manager, under the input tabs, we will see the input that we have just configured. So the TCP text input should indicate the status has been started. All right, next, we'll create the output connectors, which is capable of sending processed event data to the text file in the local file system. I'll be using write to CSV file. Same as input, we will set the name for our output as well. And then we'll choose the output folder that we want to send the CSV, and as well as the file name prefix. I'm using flights prefix for this demo. And then save to accept all the default properties for the output. Your output should indicate started just like the input earlier. Now we are going to design and publish a GeoEvent service called flights. In the GeoEvent service, we can see that our status is unavailable and the count is T0. This is because we haven't configured any services yet. So GeoEvent services are designed by adding inputs and outputs and optional filters and processes into the canvas illustrated, and then by connecting the different components to define the event flow. To configure service, you just drag the inputs and outputs into the canvas, and then we connect the TCP tags input and to the file output that we configured earlier by clicking and dragging the connector line between them. And then we click publish. Once you click publish, a message in green will appear confirming that the GeoEvent service published successfully. As you can see, now the status of the service is started. Alright, next we will use GeoEvent Simulator to simulate an event stream. By just opening the GeoEvent Simulator from the Windows Start menu, we will load to the simulation folder. In this demo, I'll use flight data as my source of simulation events, and then click load. Alright, next we click the connect to establish the server connection. A successful connection to the specified server is indicated as the green icon. In this GeoEvent Simulator, we can click start or play to send the stream of events to the designated TCP socket. So one event should be sent every second. Now I'm clicking play to send the stream data. We'll check the folder that we've configured as the output of GeoEvent. Alright, so the illustration is what the file should look like in a few seconds into the simulation. And then several seconds later, once the multiple event has been written, it will be added into the file. Alright, now we want to modify a GeoEvent service to send data to multiple output, which is updating a feature service. Same as before, click output, and then I'm choosing update a feature. Alright, we need to configure the output and ensure that it's being sent to the service in our web map. Name our outputs and then click save to save our new output. Alright, now we have two outputs. In the previous flights service, we added the configuration. First, we add the new output into the canvas. And then we want to add processes so that we get to visualize the feature update. Double clicking the processes to add the new processes into GeoEvent service. I'm using Field Mapper as my processor today. Modify the parameters. Set the source GeoEvent definition and the target GeoEvent definition. And then we have to ensure that the source fields and target fields are match the desired output field by ensuring them correct. Right, when that is done, connect the input connectors to the processors and the processors to the outputs. This is what we call the GeoEvent service. So you can see there are green inputs and then yellow processors and the blue outputs. You'll notice that our count is still 0 because we just published the service. As you start the simulator, clicking play, the inputs and the count in and out is increasing. You'll notice that the output counts is double the input count because we have 2 outputs in our service. Alright, in the last part, I am extended the visualization capabilities of ArcGIS Enterprise to operation dashboard for ArcGIS, which I've configured earlier. So it is the perfect tool to deliver a complete operating pictures of our real time. So you will notice in this dashboard that the location of the flight is continuously being updated, and then the counts of the flights is increasing as it moves. So from this demo, we can see the real life scenario that we see every day and how GeoEvent capabilities are achieved. So at the beginning of the demo, we can see that the data ingestion taken place, and then we apply real-time analytics, right? Using GeoEvent, you can focus on what is important to you by maximizing the real-time analytics using filters and processes that comes with the GeoEvent. And then the third one, now we get to visualize the real-time data. Being able to visualize your asset in web maps or operational dashboard, it provides an operational advantage for organization to see what is happening and then where things is happening. All right, that is basically all about my presentation today. I'll pass the session to Amir.
Thanks, Amira. That was an interesting presentation on the ArcGIS GeoEvent Server applying real-time analytics. So we've had a couple of questions come through. If you have been listening intently to Amira and you haven't had the chance to type out your question, there's still some time left, so you can do that in the questions pane. Now, to just kick off, we have one from Anita over here who asks you, could you elaborate on the ArcGIS GeoEvent Server licensing structure? Over to you, Amira.
All right, thank you so much, Amir, for the question. So I understand that Anita would want to know the ArcGIS GeoEvent Server licensing. So ArcGIS GeoEvent Server is an additional licensing role. Is an additional licensing role to ArcGIS Server, a software component of enterprise. So ArcGIS Server must be installed before we can install GeoEvent Server. GeoEvent Server can be licensed in addition to the base purchase of ArcGIS Enterprise. It could be standard license and also advanced license. GeoEvent Server license enables real-time data ingest, analytics, visualization, and notification capabilities to the ArcGIS Enterprise. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, that's great. So let's take a look at the second question over here from Nur Alia. The question goes, how to process data from a non-spatial table in ArcGIS GeoEvent Server? Over to you,
Alright,
Amira.
thank you, Amir. So thank you, Alia, for the question. By design, GeoEvent Server's interface to enterprise database is through publish map service, feature service, or both. So GeoEvent Server provide input connectors named for an ArcGIS server for features, for polling map and feature service for record that include geometry. So often user want to incorporate data from non-spatial table with X and Y coordinate values into a GeoEvent Server workflow and require GeoEvent Server to use coordinate values in tables row to construct point geometry. So POL and ArcGIS GeoEvent Server for features input does not offer the capability as it assumes that the feature record includes geometry. So yeah, I guess I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thanks, Amira. So let's go to the next question. We have one from Kamaruddin Yusuf. The question goes, is there any GeoEvent platforms available for the user to play around or to do testing? So I guess the question is about maybe asking on availability of a trial for GeoEvent. Over to you, Amira.
All right, thank you, Amit. Thank you, Kamaruddin. I believe you need to have the GeoEvent license in order to play around with the GeoEvent. We have tutorial available for you to play around, but then I guess you still need to have the license in order for you to do the tutorial. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. So let's move on. Let's go on to the next question from Azim Hadi over here. How do I get the latest version of GeoEvent Server?
All right. GeoEvent Server. All right. So you want to know how do you get latest version of ArcGIS GeoEvent Server? So if you have already installed ArcGIS GeoEvent Server, you can upgrade it in place using the latest version. So for installing on a new machine, review the documentation, which includes basically the most up-to-date detailed step to install the software.
Okay, thank you. So moving on, we have another question from Major Hasnul Hadi Karim. And the question goes, can a flying drone be live feed video and location using GeoEvent Server? How does the input be configured?
I believe with the flying drone, it has its own sensors, right? So with its sensors, where the format of the input suits the GeoEvent server inputs, we can actually see the the real time of the flying drone.
Okay, so just to add on that, so basically it also depends on the type of inputs that the
Yeah,
GeoEvent would be able to
offers.
receive.
Yes,
So for
that's true.
example, if your drone can be configured to, let's say, push out a JSON, or we can read a REST endpoint, then yes, there would be no problem on the GeoEvent. So we have to
Yeah.
really take note on how we want to read the inputs from the drone itself. What does the drone can provide as a medium for the input for the GeoEvent? So I guess that's the addition to what Amira has said just now.
Yeah, thank you, Ame.
So, okay, so that's all the time we have today. So if we have not answered your questions, we will surely reach out to you with the response. Thanks, Amira, and thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll see you for the next Directions Live online webinar series. Goodbye.